Your playing small does not serve the world. Marianne Williamson. Welcome to Casa De Confidence, a podcast for you. You'll hear some incredible women
and some awesome, cool dudes
going confidently in the direction of their dreams and living in the purpose of their heart.
You're our host,
Julie DeLucca-Collins, and you are our sidekick. Hashtag handsome hot husband.
That again.
And the producer of the show.
That I am.
I am an author, speaker, coach, dreamer, and most of all,
we help people go in the direction of their dreams
and support them on their purpose. So pull up a chair,
grab a drink,
and make yourself at home because our casa
is your casa.
Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of Casa De Confidence. I'm your host with the most, Julie DeLucca-Collins.
And I'm Dan Collins, the hashtag handsome hot husband, podcast producer, behind the scenes wizard, and apparently someone who's learning how to be more visible too. But more on that later.
Really? More on that later? You got to be kidding me.
Well.
So I am so glad that you're owning being visible, by the way, because we are talking about more visibility.
Well, I've always been known to be a good listener, and that comes with a certain amount of invisibility at times in life.
Well, see, I don't think you should be invisible. That's the thing, Dan.
Me neither.
What?
I don't think I'm invisible. I'm 6'6", over 300 pounds.
Oh my God.
It's hard to hide me.
There.
It's hard to hide me.
Hard to hide you indeed, especially your shoes that I tend to trip over a lot.
Oh my gosh. These shoes again. You keep talking about these shoes, these mythical shoes.
Mythical shoes. You know what? You also have like a
I only call them mythical
over there.
I only call them mythical because they're so big.
Right. They're like the Yeti shoes. Oh my gosh, we're going off the rails already.
Anyway, Julie.
Anyway, Dan.
It's a great weekend.
It's a great weekend. And sadly, you go back to your aerospace job tomorrow.
I know. I've taken the last week off to work on things, and we've gotten a lot of work done.
Except moving the situation you got in front of the window that I trip on every day when I come into the office and try to open the blinds.
So got a lot of, keyboard warrior stuff done.
Oh my gosh, a lot of keyboard warrior. You're correct. You did a good job.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
But in my brain, I wanted to get so much more done. It has nothing to do with you. That's just my high achiever in me.
I think we might have, I might have created a couple tiny habits this week. So let's do what? What do you have to do at the end?
Celebrate.
Celebrate. Come on.
Oh my God, I hate that song.
Hate's a strong word. You know what, though?
Yeah.
If it's playing at a wedding, you're dancing at the wedding.
First of all, you remember when we got married, I told the DJ that under no circumstances was he to play that song.
Did he play it?
No, he did not. And what do you remember what the other song I told him not to play?
No, I don't remember.
We Are Family.
We are family.
And by the way, there's family members that requested that, and nobody from my family requested that. Just saying.
I know, but you know what?
What?
The sign of a good DJ is?
What?
He put that on lockdown.
He
the
did.
No playlist was a no playlist.
That's right. He did, however, play the chicken song.
He did play the chicken song, but he told us ahead of time.
Yes, and we played a little game.
We said, please don't do the chicken dance. He's like,
but you're going to like this.
He's like, I will respect that, but you're going to like it when I do it. And we did. It was a great time.
It was great. It was wonderful. So maybe we'll have to post pictures about that in your social media so that people could see what we did when he played the chicken dance.
We have video. We have video of it.
What?
We have video of it. Ooh, I didn't even think about it.
Where is that
I'm a video guy now.
Yeah,
I wasn't in 2012.
Oh my gosh.
I could go and get this stuff. And
do you even know where our wedding video is?
Yeah, it's on a disc someplace. On
a disc somewhere. Oh my God. Ridiculous. Anyway, hey, listen, today we're talking about visibility, but not just the kind of look at me, I'm Sandra D kind of visibility, or the kind that, really is not good, right? We don't want to go viral for the wrong reasons. But we're talking about intentional, strategic, service-driven visibility.
Cool.
You know who our guest is?
Keenya Kelly.
And she embodies that to a T. And when I grow up, I want to be more like her in my way, the Julie way. I met her at Podfest.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. And I love having people that I've met in person.
I'm sure you fangirled because you knew her from TikTok,
I did.
Right?
Well, I met her. I met her at Podfest, and it was the weekend that TikTok was supposed to be banned. And first of all, I fangirl. I'm like, oh my God, there she is. There she is. Look at her. Oh my God, can I go talk to her? And I went to talk to her because you know me. I go talk to everybody.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. And anyway, so I said,
to know the room.
I'm fangirling, and I'm going to shoot my shot. Would you like to be on my podcast? And she said, yes. And I was so thrilled that she was. So,
cool.
Yeah. And I first came across her a couple of years ago on TikTok, and watching her definitely has taught me a lot. And I have so much more that I have to learn. But everything that I know is the stuff that I love to really be able to share with my clients, whether they're in coaching or they're podcasting clients, because visibility, is something that is a must if we want to create an impact and grow our business, right? Mm-hmm. But knowing and learning from her, and she's a generous person when it comes to sharing her knowledge, is the same thing that I want to do for others, is share generously because other people have been generous to me.
I know, because the truth about it is visibility matters, but it's not about ego. It's about showing up so your message can help someone else. Because in a world full of noise, your voice, your real story can be the things that changes someone else's life.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Now, has someone's voice or message changed your life, Dan?
Someone's voice or message.
I mean, aside from me, obviously.
Aside from you, you've changed my life incredibly so.
Well, I didn't set you up for that. I was wondering if there's anybody online who you would say has definitely.
Oh, online.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one that's kind of cool. That's kind of got me into this whole world of podcasting.
Oh, yeah.
In the whole world of video production. And that's Pat Flynn. And Julie's like, oh, I knew Pat Flynn first. And yes, Pat Flynn is her coach, her mentor and stuff. But I was listening to Pat Flynn a long time ago. Smart Passive Income was one of the first podcasts I listened to. So yes, did that put me on a different path? Well, yeah, in this life with you, absolutely. And it's helped us get our start as podcasters and get our start in the business.
In so many ways, because he is the person who in 2020 said to us, you need to help people with their podcast. And I looked at him, I'm like, right? Well, I understand.
Julie, he's got a new book. What's his new book?
Lean Learning.
Lean Learning.
Yeah. And by the way, this is not an ad, but it's Lean Learning. And I am incredibly fortunate. I am in his little private Lean Learning challenge group that he is hosting. Mm-hmm. And I get to check in with him every day in Slack.
That's cool.
And we're talking about progress, not perfection, and really the whole point. And again, if you haven't gotten this book, and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago in my email, but it's really good. It's a place where you can really be able to, well, number one, know that change doesn't happen overnight, and that it's not required for you to be perfect when you're trying to learn or do it all. You need to just focus on what you can control, etc. But anyway, that's all.
All right. Well, back to visibility. Julie, can you think of any past episodes where, this has been an important thing or an important theme with previous guests?
Well, I think that all of our guests in one way or another have wanted to be visible because, they're growing a brand. I think that the first person that I hosted that had a platform and was very visible was Jill Angie from Not Your Average Runner.
That's like episode 10?
Episode 10. You are
correct.
I
remembered something.
Look at you.
Woohoo!
Oh my God. Episode 10. Yes. Episode 10. And Jill, one of the things that I love about her is that she has a podcast, Not Your Average Runner. She has been online, but really her mission has been to continue to help women with becoming runners, even though if they don't look like your average runner, which this is, one of the things that Jill and Kenya have in common is that they both have an incredible passion for helping a certain person, right? And allowing their gifts to be the thing that helps others. Yeah.
Now I'd like to apologize because I know I pronounced Kenya's name 2 different ways, but it's my kryptonite today, I guess.
Apparently, so, I'm contagious.
So I send that out in gratitude, in apologies. Julie, speaking about visibility,
did you know that you have edited over 2,500 episodes, that you've produced over 2,500 episodes?
I have.
Yeah, did you know that?
Wow. Well, that actually kind of goes into what I wanted to talk about.
What do you want to talk about now?
We've got some big news.
Ooh, that's how I know.
That's how you know?
Yes, because I decided to put that in the thing. So why don't you announce it? I'll let you announce it.
Our brand new website for Casa De Confidence Productions is officially live at casadeconfidence.website.
Yes, Casa De Confidence .website.
That's actually .website?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Casa De Confidence .website. Yeah,
so
I like it.
Well, why don't you tell people about it a little bit?
Well, I think that, we are becoming more visible with the production company. I am still coaching. I am still supporting women, and they kind of go hand in hand. But I kind of felt like Casa De Confidence Productions has grown so much that we want to go ahead and create its own visibility outside of Julie DeLucca-Collins, outside of the podcast, but also as a very viable arm of Go Confidently Services.
Cool. And coming soon to that website is going to be a special page dedicated to just our clients that I do production for.
Oh my God, that's so good.
And once you go on that tab, you can listen to crazy, incredible people in their podcasts or on YouTube.
Yeah, and
a lot of them are on both.
You know what I love too is if you go to the website, you can go and read, and if you find a mistake, please let me know.
Yes.
Because sometimes you need 10, 15 different set of eyes.
Yeah, can we get proofreaders? Everyone's a proofreader. Just go on the website, check it out. Can you go
be our proofreader, people? Because, no matter how hard we try, and we have a copywriter and staff and our VA and friends, we're not perfect. And we need all the help we can get. So, and if we can help you with your website someday, then let us do that. But please go help us out.
So this brings me back to what I alluded to at the beginning.
Okay, so what did you allude in the beginning?
I've always been the behind the scenes guy, but I've realized I've got to share too. So that's something that I'm working on, getting a little more visible in the business with things like tech tips and how to support the woman you love who runs at 100 miles an hour. So,
I don't run 100 miles per hour.
I started doing the tech tips, but I've only done one. So I've been a little delayed on that. So
you've done twice.
Oh, I did too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I made you batch content.
Yeah, so
listen, we practice what we preach. I need to
get back on that a little bit. But you know what?
Yeah.
You know what? This week wasn't about my tech tips. This is about serving our clients and serving our listeners.
Well, lucky for you, I made you create a content calendar.
I know. What you need to do is say, Dan, you need a plan, because a man without a plan
needs a wife that tells him what to do.
It's a good thing you don't coach men.
I coach men.
That's true.
I've had a couple male clients.
Well, your primary, person is women in midlife, correct?
women in midlife. However,
But you don't keep yourself there. But that's a very important demographic.
You got a niche because the riches are in the niches, like Pat Flynn says.
Yeah. So,
however,
Julie?
I have been asked, and one of my first clients was Mark, and he launched an app, and I helped him, and he's still doing really well. So very excited for that.
All right. I think it's time to
we've done
release
enough talking.
the hounds.
And I got to go make dinner because I'm that kind of wife.
Yeah.
Run a company.
I gotta finish
and
I gotta finish mixing and editing this so you guys can hear it same day that we recorded.
That's right.
Our intro.
Because we love doing that.
That's just the way we do it for our podcast.
And we don't recommend that for anybody else.
No. You need to
batch your content.
If you go
people.
listen to any of our clients' podcasts and videos, they're much more highly produced than our own. Because
oh my God, don't say that. We produce ours.
You throw out episodes that I haven't even touched. So
sometimes I need to do that, especially when something is in my heart.
That's why you hear certain episodes from Casa De Confidence that, the sound's not quite the best because Julie just can't help herself.
Oh my gosh.
No. Don't get me wrong.
I'm using some tech.
Her voice is heavenly.
Oh my gosh. No, listen.
But it's not Dan edited.
I am testing different softwares so I can recommend it.
I have a button on my keyboard.
What?
That has a bunch of it's got settings on it to help the sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the button says DM. You know what DM stands for?
Direct message.
No.
What?
Dan Maker. It helps sound in a very generic way be much better without going in and doing all the little stuff that I do for all our clients. I only use the Dan Maker for you.
Oh, the Dan Maker?
Yes, the Dan Maker.
Oh my gosh. Anyway.
You know what? I'm going to use the Dan Maker in a couple minutes on this episode, and it's going to go out and people are going to be able to listen to it.
All right, so good for you. Yes, Daniel.
And you out there, enjoy this episode with Keenya and Julie.
Welcome back to Casa De Confidence. From time to time, I get to meet in real life people that I've been following online. And wow, this was like a starstruck moment for me at PodFest. I've been following her on TikTok forever and ever. A lot of the stuff that I've implemented in my business has been because of her. She is a wonderful teacher as well and has been forging the way not only for herself online, but for others. I want you to know this person more, and if you haven't heard about her, you must, and you need to go follow her right away. But let's learn a little bit more about Keenya Kelly. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to meet people on, the show that I have met in person, but also that I met online first. So
yeah,
I know that you've been doing this for a while now. Could you have envisioned when you were 21 that you would have such a prominent presence online?
No. I will say I knew that I was going to do something of significance because I don't know if you can see it, but behind me, there's a picture of me on stage in front of 12,000 people and I was 21 years old.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I always knew something was up, but I never would have thought this.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that for so many of us, right, we have a picture, sort of murky, but a picture of what we want it to look like. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I have found is that the picture that actually takes kind of like the Polaroid, right, the one that comes into focus, at times may not be necessarily what we envision it to be, but at times it's even so much better than what we envisioned. And it really is a matter of believing. Now, some individuals might have taken like a detour on their way to having that Polaroid be really into focus. Tell me a little bit about that journey. What was the journey from you at 21 to where you are now? And let's learn a little bit about what you've been doing.
Yeah, so it definitely was not a straight line. It definitely was not easy by no means. And so I like to always tell people that like what they see today is as a result of 20, 30 years of a thing. So I'm definitely not an overnight success by no means. But at 21, I was in college and I got recruited into a network marketing company, which I was really new to, but thank God I had a really good sponsor. And at that time, I was very, very rough around the edges, but they could see something that I had. I think it's like Zig Ziglar calls it that something. And I didn't know that I had that something, but they knew there was something there. And I was forced to read a lot of books in network marketing in that company.
Yeah.
And because I was becoming a leader really fast, but I was a bad one. And so it really started to shape how I thought, shape my expectations. It shaped how I saw the world because I saw the world as someone who grew up in a lot of poverty and a terrible environment. And the network marketing industry and all those books started to retrain me on what life really could look like. And so I did that for many years. And I wouldn't say I had a lot of confidence. I mean, I think I had a big personality, but I had low self-esteem. And starting to be someone who was in front of the room teaching and commanding a room, it really started to help with my belief in myself and how I felt about myself. But I made a lot of bad decisions and really didn't know what I was doing. So I ended up years later having to get a job. And that kind of messed with my confidence because I had seen all the highs of the highs and I was experiencing the lows of the lows. But going back into corporate America was easy because one, it was a steady paycheck, right? But also I had these skills and this knowledge and experience from network marketing to really help me. And it started like getting back into corporate America got me back on the right track. And it also started me back into entrepreneurship.
Amazing. Well, one of the things that I found that is a little bit of a similarity between you and I is that you were stressed out, you were underpaid at one point in your life, and now you have a profitable and thriving business. Yet, there's so many different things that you had to learn. And I love that you share about the books and being in the network marketing company. I did network marketing as well. And I know that, people beat up on it, but they do teach you some leadership skills that you can take on and then you can really build from. But I believe that there was one ingredient for you and for many people who find success, and that is determination. Do you think that that's something that you built or something that you had?
I think it was a combination of things. Like I'm very spiritual, like a Jesus girl. And
Me
when
too.
I look at myself today, I'm like, my dad always had an entrepreneurial spirit, even though he wasn't in the family, it was there. So I'm like, part of that was already in my DNA. Then it was being in a very chaotic environment, but being kind of shielded and protected by my older sisters and then seeing my friends in high school, like how their parents were raising them, something in me was just kind of like, ooh, I like that life. Maybe I can go after what they've got going on. And then I also think it was just God's, like he always had this plan. And I kept taking the right road, like just go this road. Okay, now go this way. And I didn't know that I was going on his road, but I was taking these little steps and it was constantly guiding me to where I was going. So I think some of it was there. A lot of it was environmental books and people that were placed in my life to help me. And then a choice. But now, like once I was like 24, 25, it became, oh, I'm going after whatever it is I can have. Then it became me going after it.
Yeah. So good. And I think that, one of the things, excuse me, is that we don't really understand when we are in the middle of it. And it's not until we can look back and kind of say like, oh, I get it. I get it. How I kind of weave that together. Now, one of the things that I really feel compelled to talk to you about is many of my clients and women who listen to the show, when they're talking about confidence, right? They only want to talk about all the highlights. And I think that social media puts out there the need for us to highlight how great we are, look at me, what I've accomplished, because I think in some ways we're trying to keep up, right?
Mhm.
But you also had some very significant lows. You had significant lows where you lost your apartment, your car, and you had to kind of, in some ways, what some people, and I don't consider it this way, but some people may consider this kind of like backpedaling. Tell
Mhm.
me a little bit about how that hit your confidence and what was some of the stuff that you went through to kind of rebuild your spirit? Because, again, you talk about how it kind of forced you to really, you know, look at and feel that you've lost some sort of dignity, although I don't see it that way, but I'd love for you to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. So that was kind of like when I was in my younger age. So
Mhm.
I was in network marketing and I was making a lot of money, but I didn't really know a lot about money. I didn't understand taxes and
Mm.
I was just spending as if it was going to constantly keep coming because in the network marketing company, we got paid every day. There was constant deposits
Wow.
every single day, yeah.
Okay.
So because of that, I kept living day to day to day to day and I
Mm.
wasn't being a good steward of my money. I didn't know at the time, but I wasn't. And so
Mhm.
I lived in like a rent controlled apartment too. And so the rent was so low for whatever reason, I wasn't paying it. And I just wasn't paying on all the things I needed to
Mhm.
pay for. And I started to, because I was spending more than what I was making, I ended up like, oh, now I'm really in a hard time. Like now I can't even afford to pay for the things that I need to pay for. And of course, I lost my car and then I lost my apartment, so on and so on. And
Mhm.
that was, I won't say devastating because I was so young then,
Mhm.
but it was like a rude awakening. But granted, I grew up in an environment where you lost your car, you lost your apartment. It was like we were constantly doing that. So I was in
Yeah.
this cycle of how I
Mhm.
grew up. And it was really ego, like, got to my ego. And it was in that season where it was really hard. I was embarrassed because I had this big
Mhm.
team. Everybody knew me in that company as this person. And I just went
Mm.
dark. And not in a, well, I went dark in terms of people knew that I stopped, but a lot of people didn't know why. And I was
Mhm.
just like, I've got to figure life out. I've got to rebuild. And it
Yeah.
was really hard, really messed with my ego. But at the same time, because I had read so many, like I'm not like the average person. And so I say that because I had read hundreds of books, I had listened to hundreds of hours of CDs. So the me that had never done that would have just been out. Right. But because all that was there, I knew that, okay, I'm gonna get a job and then I'm just gonna take it one step at a time. But
Mhm.
it was emotional. It was hard, but I would knew that like, okay, let's just course correct, you know?
Yeah, I thank you for touching on this because I think that, and there's something that you just said that you lost your car, you lost, other material things,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the life that you were in.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with a single mom too. I grew up, well, not two, but with a single mom, and we didn't have a car for a very long time, and we had to take
Mm-hmm.
the bus, all of us, and at times, we couldn't pay the bills when it came to the lights, or we would come home from school. It's like, oh, the lights are off, or the water is off, and little things like that, and it would became such a norm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely, I talk about it now because I know that I became the person who I am through some of the challenges and difficulties and lessons that I went through. But I know that it's taken me a while to really be able to when I was in corporate America, God forbid, I wouldn't really talk about that, right? Because I had to keep up this little persona
Yeah.
and I didn't want people to find out I was poor at one point or that I didn't have the whatever. Um, a lot of women struggle with that shame, struggle with, I don't want people to see that part of me or the things that the world may see as a negative. And I think that I don't see it as a negative because it helped me form me and it formed you and it formed so many
Yeah.
people. How do you get the courage to talk about the difficulties or the things that, where again, the world defines as, bad or whatever you want to call it. But how do you get the courage? Because you talk about it, you share it, and it's not unique to you. And I think that many women, right, struggle with that.
Well, I think that people struggle with it because it's not pretty. It doesn't make you look good or feel good. And then people see you a certain type of way when they know those types of things. So I can understand why someone wouldn't want to tell anybody anything. I think that because I've been programmed, right?
Mhm.
So in network marketing, you're programmed to have success, but you're programmed to help people identify with who you were to who you are. So in that, when you are doing presentations in network marketing, you're telling people, I have this life, but I was just like you. So like at
Mhm.
21 years old, I was programmed on how to tell my story, right?
Mhm.
So I think that the shame and all that just kind of like shattered so at an early age that I never grew up in that environment where it was like, hey, you don't share that as much.
Mhm.
Now I remember when I was younger that I would never tell anything like that because it brings you shame and embarrassment,
Mhm.
and when you're in school, people make fun of you and all that type of stuff. So I would never do that. But then network marketing, we were reading all these books where all people were doing was sharing their story. And they just kept
Mhm.
sharing their story in all the books and then in the environment to where, today I share my story freely. Now,
Mhm.
if someone was a client of mine and they're starting out like as a woman, and I'm like, okay, well, I can identify the fact that you don't want to tell somebody you went through divorce or that
Mhm.
you dealt with this and this. One of the things that I always tell people is that you don't necessarily start by telling them what you're going through today, right? You are going
Mhm.
to tell them whatever you want to tell them about the past, and
Mhm.
then whatever you want to reveal to them about what is happening with the present and the future. But you have to decide what feels comfortable to you first, because
Mhm.
even though you can help people with all parts of your story, it doesn't mean that you should, and it doesn't mean that you want to, right? And so I would tell someone decide like what do you feel comfortable sharing with people, and based upon what it is that you are doing, like who are you going to serve with that information. If you just want to say something just to say it,
Mhm.
then you got to determine if that's what you should say. But you've got to figure out like what part of my journey is what I want to share, who do I want to impact with that, and why am I sharing that. So like the me today likes to share all this because while people know me because I'm a social media person, I'm more than that. That's just my job. I desire to inspire people to be the best version of themselves, to go to therapy, to seek the Lord, have balance in their houses. And the only way I can inspire people in all of that is allowing them to see me. And so because that's my intent, I choose how much I'm going to share with people.
A lot of people are uncomfortable sharing a lot.
Mhm.
Is it possible to share without sharing?
Yes, and it depends upon what the intention is.
Mhm.
Like if someone has a podcast and let's just say like they want to inspire women to be more confident, well, you've got to understand that like there's only so much depth that you're going to go
Mhm.
with a person depending upon what you're willing to share with them. It's like friendship. I'm meeting a lot of people and I'm sharing certain things with people, and then as the relationships deepen, then I may go deeper on a topic. So like for example, some people know I had a big surgery in
Mhm.
2023. So some people know that. Some people don't even know I had surgery. So then there's that. But then others know that I had the depth of the surgery, right? And
Mhm.
then a few know how this surgery has truly impacted me then,
Mhm.
today, and in the future. So it's like I'm deciding what I'm going to share or
Mhm.
what have you. But it depends upon what a person is trying to do with the information and with the people that they're trying to impact.
Yeah. I'm so glad you talk about that because I think that, so many individuals, especially as they're entering an online presence, right? That's the first thing in the objection that I hear. I don't
Mm,
want to share. I don't want to be on social media. And I think that we really can curate the experience and still create that connection with people.
mm,
But you get to decide what that looks like. And I think that you're very clear on that in what you're teaching. And again, like I said, I found you on TikTok and I binged your stuff and you've had challenges. I've joined the challenges And I want to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I think that the one thing that I have noticed from you is that you are trustworthy because you share, but at the
Thank you.
same time, you're sharing what you decide you're going to share and at what
Oh,
level.
yeah. For
Yeah.
sure. I mean, it even reminds me of like Kim Kardashian. You know, we
Mhm.
think that Kim shares everything, but she does not. You
No.
know, you would never knew what the inside of her house looks like until she got her daughter North, who likes to show off the house. And she's like, please stop sharing, you know. And she's been on so many podcasts and she refuses to say anything bad about her ex-husband. She
Right.
refuses. And she's like, and then
Right.
people are like, why won't you share? And she goes, I don't want to do that. And two, I've got kids. The last thing I need
Yeah.
is for my kids to be able to go back and see what mommy is saying about daddy. She's like, daddy can do whatever he's going to
So
do. But she said, but
good.
I am choosing not to do that. And so she is choosing what
Mhm.
she wants to share. You know, even though they think she shares everything, she does not.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that, we tend to think that all these people are so public because we see a
Mhm.
lot of them, but we're seeing a lot of them without seeing all of their private moments.
For sure.
And,
We're seeing what they want us to see, which is the right thing.
uh-huh. How did you begin? Well, I know you got your start on Periscope. Tell me about Periscope for the people who don't know what it is.
Yeah, so Periscope is or was a live streaming app. So it was
Mhm.
owned by Twitter. And back in 2016, I started seeing people on this app just like
Mhm.
talking and teaching and selling stuff. And I was like, you know, again, I had my entrepreneur background from the years.
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't really know what's happening here, but I'm just going to create an account. I'm going to watch videos and I'm going to
Mhm.
start just kind of sharing. And the more that I was sharing, the more I kept saying to myself, I think that there's some type of opportunity to make money,
Mhm.
but I don't know what that looks like. So I just kept watching people that were making money. Eventually, I invested in an hour call with somebody,
Mhm.
and that was the person who said, "Hey, you actually have something, and if you would stop watching everybody else and start to create, you'll
Mm.
be able to create something."
Yeah, so such a good advice. I have a good friend, and she's been on the show, Corinne Crabtree, and she built a
Oh, nice.
huge. And again, I met Corinne in 2009 when it was only
Mhm.
15 of us in her little membership, and now
Yeah.
she's got 12,000 people. But she decided to go big on Periscope, and it
Mhm.
was about her showing up. And she, a lot of people were doing different things, but she's like,
Yeah.
no, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to share. And
Mhm.
she grew a platform. But I love that you're talking also about how somebody else does it. Doesn't need to be how you do it, but you need to do it. You need to
Mhm.
not just say, let me just copy it and watch and try to learn. I did that. And that was my mistake with YouTube. I launched the podcast in 2025 and 2020. We've been 5 years in,
Mhm.
and the podcast has been great. We've grown. But when it came to YouTube, I knew that I wanted to get in there, but I spent a lot of time just watching people, just watching people. And then
Yeah.
last year I said, okay, I'm going to start. And then I started, and I'm like, oh, I'm not doing it like that. And I kept thinking, why am I not doing it? And I
Yeah.
realized that it wasn't because I wasn't doing it. It's just that I was just trying to be somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't find your groove, you can't find your brand, you can't find your message until you really start to share it and share it imperfectly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, you know, like with whatever that you're doing, whether it's
Mhm.
Periscope or it's YouTube or it's a podcast, it's like you can't figure out what your groove is, who your people are, and where you're going with it until you just get started. Many people just have this desire, this dream, and say, "Oh, one day
Mhm.
I'm going to do this thing," or then they try to make everything perfect or wait for perfect scenarios. But everybody that we know today that has whatever level of success that we deem as success
Mhm.
all started at the same place, which is with nothing, with no
Mhm.
audience, with no real direction. They just decided to kind of try, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Who have you followed, and who are the people that kind of help to form you and support you and inspire you online?
Yeah. So, well, first person that inspired me definitely was my mentor in network marketing. And then I've always, always, always looked up to Oprah Winfrey.
Mhm.
Of course, like as a Black woman, you're like, when you see this Black lady on TV, you're just like, how is that
Yeah,
happening?
yeah,
And
right.
then brown skin, heavy set Black lady.
Mhm.
So she's always been somebody.
Girl, you and I both.
Yeah, you've
Right?
got this story of like, you know where this person comes from. Like, you know, and you're just like,
Yeah.
look at where this person has come from. Like, what in the absolute world, you know? And then online today, who would I say inspires me online today? Oh man. So I was very inspired by Shalene Johnson. I learned about her through Periscope.
Yeah.
And I was inspired more so by seeing her big personality. And like once I became friends with her, once I started seeing like this person came from nothing. It's not like she
Yeah.
was just all of a sudden this Shalene Johnson lady. She came from nothing and her husband came from nothing
Yeah.
and they almost lost everything. And you start to see the resilience in
Yeah.
people and you're like, and you see the person today and you're like, whoa, but that is only because there were some decisions that she and he made back then, you know, and it's just been like, you just watch what people can do when they just make a decision, you know. And so who inspires me online right now? I wouldn't say I have anybody specific that's inspiring me. I think because I constantly go back to my same Oprah and all them that kind of inspire me. And I'm kind of like in this season of my life, I am not looking for other people to inspire me. I'm inspiring myself, which is kind of weird to say, but like,
nope, not at all. I get it.
Asking me that question, I'm like going through my Rolodex of people online, and I'm like, oh, I'm not really inspired by anybody right now. I'm inspiring myself, and I'm like patting myself on the back because of all the crazy things that I have been through, and then all the things that I have accomplished, and not just financially, but just like emotionally overcome. I'm like, I feel like I'm inspiring myself. Yeah.
You know, the point in when we really look within ourselves, right? And dig deep for it. And yeah, we can spend a lot of time trying to get inspired, but I think that a lot of times it's easy for us to fall into the trap of the comparison game, right? Like, oh, look what they have and I could never do that. And then but of course, we're never going to measure up to somebody else. And it's not until we can take it, you know, some great things from them, but we have to actually practice those lessons and know how they work from us. You know, funny thing last night, my husband and I were watching The Floor. I don't know if you've seen it's like I don't know, it's got Rob Lowe and it's a game show. And I don't really love it, but my mom and my husband really love it. And uh, it's a quiz game, right? And a lot of the answers yesterday, I kept calling out Oprah, Oprah. And my husband's like, are you obsessed? I'm like, first of all, listen to me. Every single answer could be Oprah for this. And I think that we become so enamored with individuals, but at the same time, we have to have that enamoredness for somebody else be for us. And then that's when we begin to see a lot of traction. Your presence online again is I found you on TikTok. I follow you on all the other platforms as well. But how did you transition from Periscope to TikTok?
Yeah. So I used Periscope and Facebook Live to build this brand design agency that was my bread and butter. And when we knew something was happening at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, we didn't know what was happening in the world. And because of that, I was like, I didn't know what was going to happen, if I was going to lose my income, lose my house or whatever, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And I was just praying, asking God for wisdom and a creative strategy. And I heard him tell me to get onto TikTok. And nobody was talking about TikTok at the time. I thought it was probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life to hear. And so I resisted for maybe a couple of weeks or so. And then eventually I downloaded it and I was trying to figure out like what's going on here. And eventually I had a viral video and I was just like, oh, and it wasn't business related. It was just me being goofy. And it started to kind of click, something is happening. And I just kept having dreams at night. I could like hear God telling me TikTok. And I was like, what is happening? And so I decided that I could be crazy or I could be hearing. So let me just err on the side of I'm hearing right. And I just decided to double down on the platform all of 2020 and then everything exploded. And at that point I was like, you know, do I want to keep focusing on designing people's brands, or do I want to go all in on video? And it was hard. It was a hard decision to make because I didn't want to lose everything trying to focus on that. But it was definitely the best decision I made at the end of 2020 to put down the agency and focus on TikTok marketing, and everything exploded.
I hear a lot from individuals, and I also hear it from people who are not necessarily in the same space, online space that we straddle, you and I and other listeners. But I often hear, "Oh, that's the dance. Why are you there? That's for kids." And it's hard to explain to them, right? How it definitely is a place for you to not only get the visibility, but really start to forge a deeper relationship with individuals. What's the secret to forging? Because I know that going viral is great. I mean, I had a viral video. I mean, not to the extent a lot of people do. I mean, I had 500,000 views, and it grew my account. But that video had nothing to do with what I do. And a lot of people that follow me were not necessarily my ideal clients. So how can we, right, create that right rhythm?
Yeah, for sure. So, one of the first things I always tell people who are considering TikTok is that you have to abandon what you think you know about the platform. Most people know the viral videos somebody sent them, or the viral videos they've seen on their For You page, because they're not looking at it from the lens of like a business owner or something like that. So you got to kind of come to the platform with like an open eyes about what is potentially happening here. And then I tell my clients to do a quick search, 1 or 2 words in their industry, and then they start binge watching that content versus what's happening on the FYP, so they can really get a sense. But then once you actually start to create, what has to happen is that you have to look at TikTok as, first of all, it's a global platform. So you're going to reach people all over the world, but mainly in the United States if you're in the US. And every time you create a video, you're potentially forming a connection. Every time you create a video, you could potentially go viral. You just never know. And when you are thinking about the content that you are creating, you have to think about the fact that 1, this could be the one that's going to make me go viral. 2, who am I trying to target? And then once you've got the content there, now you've got to actually engage with people. Okay. So you can't just post something and then just get out of there, or just try to go viral and make a bunch of money, but you have to actually spend time cultivating the relationships. And the cultivation happens in the comments, but for me, it happened a lot on live stream. So I started on TikTok in 19. And then once I got the live feature, which was after 1,000 followers, I started going live every day. And I started building these relationships with people. They knew me, they liked me, they trusted me. And so I became their TikTok guru because I was creating videos, and I chose that as my platform to create. Then what I ended up doing was I started going live on TikTok and all the platforms at one time, which allowed me to just do one thing that would serve everybody. But I kept building my authority on that platform by my consistency with live stream, and then me and actually engaging with them and being their go-to expert. So like, for example, I just created a video, I guess last week, about President Trump extending the deadline or whatever. And a lot of the comments were like, yeah, you're my guru. I knew you were going to have the goods. And the only reason they feel that way is because I'm constantly being the one that delivers the information and the one that helps them to grow an account.
Absolutely. When we were in Podfest, right? I asked you, I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because I knew you would be the person. And you said, that's not going away. And I thought, are you sure? Are you sure? And here we are, right?
Here we are.
And you are that valued, trusted source
Thank you.
for me. And I think that that's exactly what we should strive for. Now, you said also something that is very important. And this is what I love about the content that you're putting out there. And this definitely is a game changer. You're serving. You're not getting into live thinking, oh my God, okay, how many people are going to sign up? How many people are, you're giving value, you're serving, you're sharing your information. And that's how you're building that relationship with individuals, and you're nurturing the relationship. And I think that that's the one thing that makes a big difference, because, the world is full of choices. And when someone can choose to watch you over somebody else, is because they're going to feel connected and they're going to say, okay, she's the person that helps. She's the person that gives me the information I need. Oh, when I need help, who am I going to go to?
Right.
That person.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what people are looking for. It's like when you go to the doctor, initially you're just going to the doctor because that's who you're assigned to by your insurance. But once you find that one doctor that you're like, oh, I can trust them, I can share all this stuff with them, then they become your go-to person. Like I have a doctor in San Diego where when I moved from, and I kept going back to her saying like, listen, I'm seeing these doctors in Texas. How can I pay you? Because like, I trust you. I trust your expertise. And we had to figure out a way for me to be able to consult with her periodically because I'm like, I know how I am when I am with you. But the only reason why that happened is because I had to invest in her, but she had to serve when I was investing and I had to get results.
Yeah, absolutely. I moved to Connecticut 13 years ago. And I have to say for a good 7 years, I was still going to New York City to get my hair cut.
Exactly.
Because I had a relationship and I trusted them and I could just walk in and I could say same thing, or I could say, I need something different. And they knew me enough and they took care of me. And that's exactly, I think, the attitude, right? Or what we need to strive for when we are online. Now, of course, there's so many different platforms online, my friend. And I'd love for you to kind of, I mean, it's comparing apples and oranges as far as I'm concerned, or maybe I'm wrong, right? But people tend to also be on Instagram. People are on, whatever new du jour platform. Maybe they're going to Threads. Maybe they're in Lemonade now, which, we can get and talk about that another day. But what are the similarities, for instance, with Reels and TikTok? And can we just repurpose our content from one platform to the next? Does that work?
Yeah. So to answer that question first, like you can take all the same content and post it on all the platforms, right? One of the things that I have my audience do is we film in our phones. We don't film on the platforms. We edit in CapCut and then we distribute. So that way we're just filming content once. We're just editing once. And then you can place it everywhere else. You don't want to film it in TikTok. You don't want to film it in Instagram because once you film it in those platforms, there's data on the video, even when you can't see the watermark. And when you try to repurpose that, those other platforms know where that video comes from and they don't perform as well. Okay?
Oh, so good. That's good advice. I have to tell you, I did learn that to do the video on my phone and then post it. And I tend to do that. And I have noticed, actually, you just said that I had a video that I did last week. I did it on stories. I saved the video, didn't post it in stories. I saved it.
Yeah.
And then I put it on TikTok and it has barely any views. Barely.
Because TikTok knows where it came from.
Fascinating. That's excellent advice. Now, is the algorithm different?
Well, the platforms are different, period. So TikTok is a standalone algorithmic beast, when it comes to knowing you, knowing what you're interested in, knowing what you could potentially be interested in based upon your behaviors. Instagram is a very robust platform. So there's Instagram, there's stories, there's highlights, there's so many different things. And then there's reels. And so Instagram is trying to compete with TikTok and they're doing a good job in terms of people's attention who already like Instagram, right?
Right.
But the algorithms are very different. So Instagram they are definitely learning you and what to serve you for sure. But they're also just sending you content in general because they don't know you as well as the TikTok algorithm, right? And that's the same thing that goes for YouTube Shorts and Facebook Reels. Like their algorithms are learning, but which one has the better one that's more sensitive to really knowing what to give you? It's TikTok. And that's because TikTok is focused on one thing, and that's the For You feed. Whereas Facebook is focused on so many things and Instagram is focused on so many things, and so is YouTube. So I think this is probably why Instagram is considering making Reels its own standalone platform in an effort to try to compete with TikTok, because Reels and Instagram and all the different, it's just too much going on with that platform. But
you
all
heard
of them
it here, people.
What'd you say?
You heard it here first.
Yeah, but all of them are amazing. So we make money on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on all of them. Which one has made me grow the fastest as a personality? Definitely TikTok for sure. But which one is making me the most money right now? It's Facebook and Instagram. And that's because the buying behavior on TikTok is increasing. But so I always tell people that like where TikTok is reminds me a little bit of where Facebook started. So when Facebook started, we were all like, I don't know if I want to be there. I don't know if I want to post anything there. And then when we saw all the ads, we were like, I don't know if I want to buy anything here. And then we started to buy. And so now where TikTok is people are like, they're buying now, but they're not buying at the rate where they're buying on Instagram and Facebook because it's still new behavior that is happening on TikTok. You know, like TikTok Shop is doing great, but the behavior is very like at 100 when you come to Instagram and Facebook. And I think with TikTok, it's at like 65, 70% in terms of people trusting that this is where I spend my money on this platform with ads and all that type of stuff. But it's going to get there for sure at some point.
Yeah. I think that, you know, the trust value for the platforms is definitely something that we need to get to. I remember friends that said would never be on Facebook, and here they are, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing is happening with TikTok. Sometimes I hear from my clients, my account is not growing. I'm posting every day. I'm doing it. What is the one thing that maybe someone that is posting consistently, let's say on Instagram? And I know that you covered a little bit of this in social media marketing world, but what can people do to kind of regain the growth in their accounts when they're stuck?
Yeah. So the number one reason why your account is not growing is because people don't find your content to be a place where they want to experience every day, right? Because the reason why someone follows your account is because they saw something, they've gone to your account and they see more and they say, oh, I want to see more from this person on a regular basis. So if people are not following you, it's because you're delivering content and they might engage with it, but it doesn't mean they want to see you all the time, right? That's like even our own behaviors. When I choose to follow an account, is because I'm like, oh, I'm getting value from this account. So I recently followed like 5 different people who teach CapCut tutorials. Why did I follow them? Because I'm in a season where I'm really trying to learn how to do better edits on my video. And when I looked at their content on their account, I'm like, oh, this is really what they do. And their videos are great. So if a person is consistently posting and nobody's following, it is something that's happening with the actual, your regular content. But also it's a lot of times right now, it's because people aren't actually posting good videos. I know it sounds mean to say it, but what we think is a good video and what the viewer thinks are good videos are definitely two totally different things. So you've got 2 seconds to get somebody's attention. You may think your video is good, but if they're not staying beyond 2 seconds, then it doesn't matter. They didn't even see the rest, right? So it's learning the art of creating content that is attention grabbing enough to your audience to get them to stop and watch the video and to get them to watch the rest of the video. Because if they're not stopping and watching, then it doesn't matter what happened in the rest of the video.
Yeah. I learned from you the importance of a hook. I think that, you know, you sometimes start the video and you don't realize that you only have a very few seconds to let someone know, like, okay, I want to watch this and stop. And it's so easy to keep scrolling. So, and I know that you have hooks that go viral, and that's one of the things that people can download. We're going to have that in the show notes, but I certainly would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your book. Tell me a little bit about your book and what prompted you to write it.
Yeah, so my book is called Before You Quit Your Job, A Strategic Guide for Entrepreneurs. So I wrote this in 2020 or 2020, 2019, 2019, I think it's 2019. And I had wanted to write that book for many years. I had started it years prior when I was in network marketing. And I wanted to write it because when I was in the industry, people were encouraged to quit their jobs and they quit their jobs too soon, you know, and you were sold the dream that if you quit your job, you're going to be able to go full time with this business and you can make more money. And then when I got into the coaching and consulting industry, I watched more people encourage people to quit their jobs, and they quit their jobs too soon. And I started to realize that we all went to school to learn how to have a job. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That, from grade school, middle school, high school, everything, how to have a job. We did not learn how to run a business. And so when you are encouraging people to quit their jobs, you're basically bringing them back to fifth grade because they don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to do any of those things. They know how to operate one thing, which is the job. And so I wrote the book because I was so frustrated with people encouraging folks to quit their jobs and watching people just quit their jobs and putting themselves in bad financial situations because they didn't know any better.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that I see that with entrepreneurs, they take the leap before they're ready. And there's a lot of different things. And I had a side hustle for a long time. And people don't realize, people think like, oh, you quit your job and look at what happened. I was laid off, but I had been running a side hustle. I'd been doing stuff on the side, and I knew that I needed to run my business like a business. I couldn't just, this was not a hobby for me. But yeah, people do encourage others to take that leap before they need to. So that's definitely really, really great advice. Now, do we need to pick one platform to go all in on?
I think that if a person is getting started on social media, yes. Because if you're not consistent on one, you're not going to be consistent on 2 and 3. Okay. And all the platforms are different. So Instagram is different from TikTok, different from YouTube, different from LinkedIn. And so if a person is just getting started, you've got to learn what you can do and and what is happening on that platform. And then you can add another. That's like, we are just now adding LinkedIn because one, our audience is there, but two, we just haven't had the bandwidth to do things on LinkedIn, but we haven't added Threads to our strategy, or Blue Sky, or X, or Pinterest, all great platforms, but we don't have the space to be able to not just repurpose the content, but really understand what we need to be doing there.
Absolutely. I remember when I had a Facebook account, I had a LinkedIn account when I was in my corporate job. And of course I had an Instagram, and I knew that I needed to go all in on one. And I said, I'm going to learn Instagram. I'm going to learn it and learn it enough that, yes, can I post on others? Sure. But this is it. And I didn't start really using the others for my business until I felt that I had a good handle on the one.
Right.
And even when I went into TikTok, it was mainly, for fun and to watch, to be entertained. And finally I took the leap, but I took the leap when I felt that I could begin to learn it. Exactly. And I had the bandwidth because things were automated. You're incredibly gracious with your time. I could keep you all day and I won't, but what is the best way for individuals to connect with you, to work with you, to soak up your goodness, your knowledge and information?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm definitely teaching a lot on Instagram, TikTok, and then on my YouTube channel, and everything is under my name, Keenya Kelly. But if someone wants to work with me, they literally can go to my website and just send me a message, or they can DM me on Instagram, and then we can talk from there.
Okay. So you check your own messages on IG?
Yes.
Okay, good. Me too.
Yeah. I'm not that big. I may seem big, but I'm not that big yet.
Oh, listen, I know that no matter how big you get, I know that you have a very personal touch. I've heard you speak. I see you, the way that you relate to people. And again, I am just tickled red that you're here. And it's been amazing to, from someone that has learned so much from you. Thank you. And I am grateful for the time.
So, thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am going to put all the information in the show notes. And if there's anything that the listeners want to reach out, they will let you know that they found you through Casa De Confidence. And again, grateful, and make sure that you follow her. And it's not just about the follow, comment, but watch with an eye of a learner and pay attention, because then you can make that your own. And I know that if you want to go ahead and enroll in any of the courses or the classes or coaching that Keenya has, you're making the right decision, because she definitely knows her stuff and she is a giver. So thank you so much for being here, my friend. And thank you for sharing your journey to confidence.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah. Until next time, my friends, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Thanks for listening to Casa De Confidence. We thank you for listening, and if you want more, go to casadeconfidencepod.com. Check Julie out on her socials as Julie DeLucca-Collins. And you can also check out her website at goconfidentlycoaching.com. Have a great week, and don't forget, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Hi, everybody. I know that sometimes we get very lonely in this entrepreneur journey, and I want to invite you to join us into our limited time only Purposeful You Mastermind. For many of us entrepreneurs, we believe that we can do it all, but the reality is that doing it alone only creates a lot of overwhelm. So join us at the Purposeful You Mastermind. You can find out more information by going to bit.ly/Julie's Mastermind. This is going to be the place where you are able to then unlock your full potential and achieve long-term success for your business. Push you behind your current limits, expand your connections, discover new ideas, and implement them with confidence. You're going to get the support in all aspects and transforming you to the six-figure business you've been looking for. Pause and get off the hamster wheel if you've been spinning around. This is a time where you can get that support from like-minded entrepreneurs that are here to join you in your journey. Together, we can challenge the assumptions and land the speaking engagements and opportunities we want to grow our business and make an impact in the lives of people. See you then. Remember, you can find the mastermind at bit.ly, Julie's Mastermind.